Right. Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure for us to be here today and to see that you are also joining us on this Sunday afternoon. So this meeting will be about opening the AI Research School 2024. So we're going to talk about the program, and then after this short opening ceremony, you're going to have the first tutorial and lecture about an introduction to Python. So this program is in collaboration with Google Research, and of course is hosted by the University of Calgary and Dr. Smalki's lab. And it's also supported by the U of C Transdisciplinary Connector Grants. So I'm going to first acknowledge the land that University of Calgary is on. So the University of Calgary, located in the heart of the southern Alberta, both acknowledges and pays tribute to the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7, which include the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda, included Chiniki, Birspo, and Goodstoney First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 5 and 6. All right, so as I said, we are going to talk about the program, give you an idea of what we want to achieve during this program and what's our vision. We're also going to talk about some logistic aspects, and we will present our team. And then your first lecturer will be Arya Banezadeh, which is going to talk to you about Python programming language. So this program will be divided in 3 phases. Right now, today, this intro to Python is included in the first one, which is actually optional. This is meant to be for students who do not have any Python background. So most likely, probably students that are not from computer science, but it's really open to everyone. So even if you are from computer science and you want to have more knowledge about Python or rehearse a bit, you can attend this first phase. And then we're going to have a second phase, which is going to be more technical. So you're going to need the background from phase 1 on Python to attend the hands-on deep learning phase 2. During this phase 2, you're going to have workshops and seminars given by experts in their fields. So both from academia and industry. So it's going to take the form of workshops where you're going to be able to see the code and actually follow the pipeline that have been developed by your instructors. And then the third phase is going to be research projects. So we're going to have teams of students that are going to be mentored by more experienced people, either students and also as well postgraduate students and instructors that are more experienced, such as professors or people from industry. So these 3 phases are aimed to prepare you to slowly acquire knowledge about first Python, then AI, and then first to apply them. So to my opinion, it's a really nice program because you don't just attend and stand here and learn things that you don't really know what's the end point of it. You will have the opportunity to apply it during the research projects. I'm going to talk more about this later because unfortunately we cannot accommodate all the students for this phase 3 of the program, but I'm going to be talking more about this later on. So the phase 1 is starting now. So we're going to have workshops and lectures on Wednesdays and Sundays from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Calgary time. And we're going to have 2 weeks of content now, so before your exams. And then we're going to have a break for you to be able to focus on your exams. And we're going to resume this phase 1 period in January. And then after that, we're going to start the phase 2 with all of the tutorials and workshops really focused on deep learning, different aspects of deep learning. And then if you are assiduous and if you attend well the this phase 2, you might be selected for phase 3 to be able to be part of a team of students and work on a research project. So that's the overall idea. This is our student leadership team. So it's a bit updated from last year, but we already had some of these students last year. So we have Arya, which is a master student, Andrew, undergraduate student, Shakufa, master student, Khadija, also undergraduate students, and myself. I'm a PhD student. So you see, it's really like a welcoming environment, if I might say. We do not segregate on your level of education or your background. So this is our team. And if members of the team are here, you are more than welcome to introduce yourself. RF or Andrew, if you are here and you want to say a few words.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Arif Matamedi. I am a master's student at the University of Calgary under supervision of Dr. Albans. And my research is focused on applying deep learning models on medical images, mostly. And I have several experiences in teaching and mentoring. And in this program, I'm really glad to be to have the opportunity to work here. I'm I'm responsible for coordinating the content of the first phase and tutoring stuff, and that's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Arif. Thank you. Andrew, maybe you're here.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name's Andrew. I'm a second-year computer science undergraduate at the University of Calgary. So in regards to this program, I'm going to be helping out a lot with the media and communications, so website and Discord. So I'll be excited to help out as much as I can here. And I also must say I've been doing research in Dr. Maleki's lab now for I think 6 months, but I got into it through this program actually last year. So AI Research School is definitely a great program, and I hope that it can be as much of a help to all of you as it was to me.
Thank you very much. Shukufa and Khadija, I don't know if you're here. Okay, if you're not, I'm going to introduce myself. So I'm a PhD student in biomedical and biological engineering at McGill University, and I'm co-supervised by Dr. Maliki here at University of Calgary. So that's why I'm involved in his lab and in this project. And yeah, it's a great thing that you mentioned, Andrew. This is actually the second edition of this AI Research School. I didn't mention it, but last year was a success. Like we had a lot of very interested students and good students continuing in the research phase. Some of them got internships. I'm going to let Dr. Maliki talk to you about this later. But this, because it was a success like last year, we're going to redo it this year, and hopefully it's going to be even better this year. So this was our student leadership team. Now, a couple of logistic things. Please do whitelist Eventbrite. You might receive emails that end up in your spam box. It's really important that you can see our emails, because we are going to be communicated through Eventbrite. It makes it much easier for us, because all the people that have registered to the program, we can reach out to them really easily. So that's going to be for the reminders of the different events. And then we're going to have this Discord channel. Feel free to scan the QR code right here. And this Discord channel is going to be really helpful for communicating with us. So if you have any questions, if you have a technical question, if you have a logistic question, anything will be answered through Discord. And that would be a way so that if someone has a question and it's being answered, then other people can enjoy the answer as well. And so, yeah, so, and also mentors and TAs are going to be connected to this Discord. So if you have a technical question, even during the workshops, we can answer them there, but we can also answer them at any time. So it's going to be really an online help for you to reach out to at any time. And if you have a very specific issue during the research phase, it's more for phase 2 and 3, but you can also reach out to us via this email. But the main communication line will be the Discord channel. So please do accept this invite. The Discord code links to an invite. So please join the Discord, and from there you can ask your question. Andrew made a great job at organizing the Discord channel in different channels that you can use. So yeah, so please follow this QR code and accept the invite for the Discord channel. Then, as I said earlier, you're going to receive reminder emails before each session, so that if you forgot, then you get reminded, of course. And then we're going to be setting up a Google Calendar soon. Once we finalize with the team, we're going to share this with you so that you have an idea of when are going to happen the next workshops, seminars, and tutorials. And I should add that also during this phase 2, not only you're going to have technical workshops, but you're also going to have seminars by people from industry. And as I said, we're working with Google Research. So it's really interesting because you're going to have both sides of, the kind of work you might be able to do in the future. So academia and industry. So it's really nice for you to have a view of how different can these two types of paths be. And yeah, and you will also be able to ask questions during these seminars. So it's really nice to attend. But we're going to share more details first when we finish phase 1. And then you're going to understand more about the content. So phase 1 is really introduction to Python for now, and it's optional for people who think they already know everything that they have to know in Python. Again, so that's the Discord channel. So there's no particular requirement for this program. As I said, this phase 1 is optional. So you don't really need to know Python, because if you don't, you can just attend this phase 1, and we will try to get you up to speed in Python, because we need Python for AI. And as you know, AI is really big right now, so you can easily find a job in AI later on. So it's really nice to know Python, but not only for AI, actually, a lot of fields require Python for data analysis, for example, and it's really not ends in AI and machine learning. You can use it in many different fields. And it's really nice to know. And also Python is a really interesting language because it has a very big community online. So it's really easy to learn. Most of the problems you've had or you face when you try to program in Python, all of these have already been answered online. So it's really nice to get into Python, and really easy. So you're going to have the phase 1 lectures. And then you have also online resources. Feel free to search for your own online resources. But we provide you with this resource, Codecademy, which we know from our team members that this is a good resource for you to start with. So if you want to complete your learning of Python, you can also use, for example, this online resource. So I'm going to let you scan this QR code if you are interested. And just so you know, the slides will be made available for you after this meeting. We're going to have a drive that we're going to share everything with you. So it's going to include, for example, slides, but also technical scripts and notebooks. I'm going to be talking about in the next slide, actually. So one of the two things you need for this program is to have a Google account. So if you don't have a Gmail, please create one right now, because you're going to be needing this later to use and to run the Google Colabs, which is a way for us to execute some Python code. And it's really easy to share. That's why we're going with these sort of tools. So please create a Gmail so that first you can have access to Colabs, but also you can open easily all the things we're going to share with you, slides and so on. And please also do use the same Zoom account each time you connect and attend a specific meeting of the AI Research School, because the way we select students to participate in the phase 3, so to be part of a research project with a team of students, we actually look at your attendance and we can see if you have been assiduous or not, because we have like the list of all the people who attend and who followed the whole workshops. So please do use the same account, and it's easy. It's also nice for us to have your names when you connect to Zoom, so your real names on Zoom, I mean. And yeah, so that's gonna be it. And if you can use your U of C email for everything, for Eventbrite and the Zoom, it's even better. Yes, and so as I was saying, as we cannot really accommodate everyone for phase 3, we really rely on your participation and attendance during the workshops. So to make them more lively, and it's really nice for people who take time to actually create the content of this workshop to have some return, to know if you understand well, and if you don't, please do ask questions. Don't restrain yourself. Feel free to ask question at any time on the Zoom chat. And if you want to ask a question live, please feel free, wait for the end and this designated Q&A session. Yes, so as I said, participation is really important and investment to be qualified for the research phase of this program. And last year, we had a lot of very interesting research projects. So I really do encourage you, especially if you want to get into AI, to be really involved in this project. It can really lead you somewhere. Last year we had internships, but even if you don't and you participate in a research project, that's already a super nice way to get into AI, have your first experience, especially if you are mentored by someone with more experience. It's gonna speed your way up to be at a good level of understanding really fast. So yeah, so it's always best to have a good teacher with you for your learning, and that's what we offer, and that's what's really nice with this program, and that's why we had so many people last year, and apparently we also have a good interest this year, so that's really exciting. Some rules: please do treat instructors first, like any people that will give the workshops, with respect. They take some time to create the content and to deliver it. And also your fellow participants, like we're all equal here. Please be respectful with one another. Use your real name on Zoom, I already mentioned. Remain muted. Also, it can happen that sometimes you connect and you haven't checked, oh, my mic is on, but then it's going to disturb the whole presentation. So if you can, please make sure that you are muted unless you want to ask a question during Q&A time. That would be super nice. And feel free to ask questions in the Zoom chat, even if the speaker cannot answer them right now. At some point, they're going to stop their presentation and look at the Zoom chat. And if the question has not been answered already by a member of our team, then the speaker can answer it. So now, I don't know if I covered everything, but Dr. Maliki, if you want to have a word, Dr. Maliki is the program director. Yeah. So he can tell you more about it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sebastian. And welcome everyone to AIRS 2024. So let's call it 2024 because bulk of the program actually happens in next year. As Sebastian mentioned, we start this program right now. We go through the first phase for about 2 weeks. Then for exams, we have about 1 month break, and we start off in January. So this actually is a great opportunity for specifically for those who might not have a comprehensive background in Python programming. I know that many of you might be from areas outside computer science. Since we haven't yet actually advertised the event for computer science students, and they will be joining you for this second phase. So you have more than 1 month beside these 2 weeks at the beginning and also 2 weeks at the end to cover some of these through the online resources. And we make sure that you have access to online content and online support through the program, even when there is no let's say after these 2 weeks, we have 1 month break. Why AI Research School? Why in first place we started AI Research School? So one thing we noticed is that first of all, there are a huge amount of talent at UFC. And this talent is not actually just limited to computer science students. We have students all around the campus. They are interested to learn about AI. When the value that you can add is sometimes is not computational. Sometimes some of you guys might be a person who is planning to focus on a AI startup to solve a problem in their own domain. And these days, AI is not just in computer science, it's everywhere from social science, arts, medical science, engineering. So there are many complex real world problems that we can actually focus and handle and solve them through AI. And this gives you opportunity. Who will be really successful in this program? Spending time and use the resource and support that you get. Don't expect yourself to be a world-renowned expert after 2 months or 3 months of any domain. Yeah, AI is just an example. It's a continuous work, and the most important step is really to start, and after that, keep to the plan for learning. Last year, we offered 2 internship program as awards for a summer internship as award from the program. And also many other students got internship position through this program, either in our lab or other labs on campus. This year, we also got guarantee 2 internship positions through this program. And we do our best to support a student who showed actually interest and gain skills in a way that they are able to contribute to research across the campus. We encourage our colleagues to actually consider a student from the program for their internship position. For this year, we have more than 20 faculty members already supporting the program as academic advisor. And those will be a great opportunity for a student who actually gain experience and learn content and skill from AI to participate in their research. This is a starting point where you can start a journey that's significantly contribute to your future career. I'm really excited to see you, and I'm excited to continue working with you. Thank you. And back to you, Sebastian.
Thank you so much, Dr. Malki. So we have some questions on the chat. So before moving on to the first lecture, we're going to answer them. So when does phase 2 begin? So Khadija already answered. Phase 2 will begin in February. So all the workshops are online. Yes, they are online. Last year we had an event on the campus, but it was more sort of a social event. I'm not sure if we will be doing this year, but the workshops are online, so it's easy for you to attend. How difficult, competitive would you say the selection for phase 3 is? So there's nothing like super difficult. It's not an exam per se, but we need to first, we cannot accommodate every student. So if every student is great, of course we're going to have to choose. But if you show interest, as Dr. Malki said, and if you have been attending a lot and you are very motivated, you should be able to participate in phase 3. Will the attendance be tracked from today? So that's a great question, because as Dr. Malki mentioned, computer science students have not been advertised to the program yet. We will not be tracking attendance for phase 1 because this is optional. Some of you might already know Python and might not want to spend time learning about it. That's not a problem for you to attend phase 2 and potentially phase 3. Tommy asked, is this phase 1? Yes, this is phase 1. This is the intro to Python phase. Aaron asked, what is the Google Research Certificate? So because we are partnering with Google Research for this program, and you're going to have the chance to learn about people working there, about their job. You're going to be learning about how they got there, what's their daily life, what's their like daily work and stuff. So we're working with them, and they provide us the certificate because they support the program. But it's just a certificate showing that you actually attended the program. And they're going to be two separate certificates, one for the phase 2 and one for the phase 3. Will attendance be tracked for phase 1 to get in phase 3? So that's I think I answered already this question because I registered for phase 2. That's completely fine. You can just attend phase 2 if you already know Python. Are there research assistant position as well? That's more a question for Dr. Maliki.
So regarding, as I mentioned, last year we supported directly through the program to summer internship. This year we have more opportunity because there are more faculty involved, but what I can guarantee is that we will have two summer internship through the program. But gaining skills give you opportunity, and those opportunity is in AI is really, in AI right now, the challenge is talent, access to talent. If you have the skills, it is difficult to not find a good position. So that's my message for you. Something that's regarding the certificate. For phase 1, also we have a certificate. This certificate is, of course, not for computer science students. If you are not from computer science student, you will also receive, of course, if you can complete the phase 1, you will receive a certificate for phase 1. This means that if you want to get that certificate, you need to attend, and of course, the attendance will be tracked. We understand that someone might miss one session or so, so that shouldn't be a big deal as long as you follow up and you actually go through the online recorded videos.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maliki, for clarifying the certificates. And there was a related question by Aaron. If you are unable to attend lectures because of personal conflicts, are you able to make up for this lost time to maintain attendance? That's exactly what Dr. Maliki just said. You can watch the recordings. And also last year we had some forms, some sort of mini test to ensure that you have attended a specific session, and this year we're going to try to do the same. So the idea is that you can still make up for your attendance by watching the recording, and we can make sure that you watched it because you will complete this small form. But you don't necessarily have to attend like 100% of the session to make sure you attended enough for the program to be selected for phase 3. What's the difference between the phase 2 and phase 3 certifications? Well, they have different meaning. Phase 2 means that you have been following like workshops given by experts in the fields, and phase 3 is more about applying what maybe you have learned or a code that you have discovered during this phase and you want to apply it to your project. So these are two completely different phases of learning for you and also for the certificates. So certificate just means like for the specific phase they're given. Will the seminars be going into more theoretical topics like geometric deep learning, or will there be more showcase of application in industry? That's an interesting question. So seminars will be given by industry people. So you're going to learn about their job, what they are doing, and then the workshops are going to be very theoretical. I'm not sure if we're going to cover geometric deep learning, but we're going to cover a broad range of deep learning application, especially in computer vision. And yes, so will there be more of a showcase of application in industry? Yes, you're going to learn about what people from Google Research do in their daily jobs. Sorry for all the questions. That's completely fine. That's what we're here for. This is the opening ceremony so that you have a good understanding of what will be the program. will we get access to the recordings through emails? So yes and no. Like the emails we're gonna send you are mostly reminders, but in the emails we're also going to include the links that you need, and one of them will be the YouTube channel where you're gonna see all the recordings, but they're always gonna be posted in the same YouTube channel. So I mean, once you have the link, you're gonna be good to go. And we're also gonna share. We also can share these links via the Discord server. I know that Andrew made a channel just for this, so that you probably will find all the links you need there. Is there any specialization for the AI topics? I'm not sure I understand the question. Is there any specialization for the AI topics?
So I can answer that one. So regarding specialization mainly happen in phase 3. So for phase 3, you are working actually with a small group of students, usually 3 to 5 people, one mentor, usually a grad student, and also one academic advisor. So this academic advisor might be someone from industry or someone who is a faculty member. A specialization happen at that stage because the problem that you will be working on it comes from a specific domain. Last year we gave a student some freedom to suggest some areas, or here this year we try to mainly work with faculty members from different departments, and we ask them to also incorporate a student in problem defining the problems. So there will be a large number of problems, and students rank based on their interest. I'm interested in problem number 1, 5, and 12. This means that we assign a student based on their our focus is to accommodate you as much as possible. But there are cases that we cannot assign someone to their first choice because we don't want some teams to be let's say 20 people and some teams to be 1 person. So that happens. Specialization happens at that stage.
And we have a related question by Aaron. Like, will we be learning about NLP, generative networks, and other more classical techniques in machine learning, or is it more focused to computer vision?
Last year, the focus of our program mainly was computer vision, but when you go through program, you will learn that many of the concepts that we cover is really translatable. The nice thing about deep learning is that you can actually learn about computer vision, and most of the techniques that you are working on is applicable to NLP as well. So that's something you will find. For example, we have vision transformer models that are actually from transformer model that's first they were introduced in NLP. So it's everything that you learn is very translatable to other domains. So it is the beauty of AI that's give you a opportunity to learn a paradigm for solving problems. And that's the reason whatever you learn is extremely valuable. And for NLP, if, for example, if we don't cover NLP at all in the program.
Yeah, that's a very good point. What is the expected length of the research project? What is the expected length of the research project? So last year, I think we did longer than we expected, because people were actually interested and really into their research projects. So I think it depends on your involvement and how much time you're willing to spend on it, because this is really for you to get your first experience with a research project in AI. But what would you say is the expected length, Dr. Maliki?
It is 1 month. So the expected length is 1 month. Last year, since some students wanted to actually work more and they were excited, they asked for extension, and we had time, and we offered them extra time to work on their project. But expect 1 month.
1 month starting in April or March?
I think the program has been posted, so that's something. And I have this in mind that sometimes the and we want we want you to learn these as soon as possible, because sometimes it gives you an opportunity to participate in, to continue that research project by joining a specific research team in a lab. So that's the plan. And as mentioned and brought up, some of our students through this program actually they continue their research even during fall. So that's again the opportunity there.
That's, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, so just regarding the scheduling, should we move
Yeah.
to the
Yeah, that's a great point. So I'm going to answer the last question, and then we're going to move on to the lecture. So how are students assigned to projects? Well, so you're going to give us your wishes. We're going to present the list of projects, and then you're going to like rank them, and then we're going to try our best to assign you your first choices. So now, if you have any more questions, please contact us, reach out to us via Discord, and we can hopefully answer your questions. And now we're going to move on to the very first technical content of this AI Research School 2024. So it is my pleasure to introduce our very first speaker, Arya Banezadeh. So Arya obtained his Bachelor of Computer Software Engineering from Amir Kabir University of Technology. And then he obtained his master's in computer science at U of C. So he did research in geometric and sketch-based modeling, and he also has a lot of experience in industry as a software developer. So it's really a perfect fit to present Python to you today. So Arya, if you're here, please feel free to take over.
Sure.
I'm gonna make you co-host.
Thank you.
I cannot actually, because I'm co-host. Dr. Maliki, you need to make Arya co-host. Or maybe you can already share your screen.
Yeah, I can share.
Oh, okay, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so please go ahead.
Okay, you should be seeing my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here in this workshop and to be presenting you the first sort of technical presentation and the first technical material that we're going to learn. I'm going to start by doing a quick introduction to myself. Sebastian did a very good job, so I'm not going to focus on this a lot. So my name is Arya Banezadeh. I'm doing my master's at University of Calgary, and I'm doing research mainly in geometric modeling and sketch-based modeling. I love computer graphics overall. I've done some research in computer animation and non-photorealistic rendering as well. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Just before I start, as Sebastian mentioned, this workshop is going to be relatively, its purpose for students who are doing a beginner work, and they haven't, like, you don't have to know very much about programming and very much about Python to learn this. So we're going to cover very basic stuff. So I'm just going to start from like level 0, start with the most fundamental things that we are going to do in programming. So the first concept that we're going to learn is the concept of algorithms. Algorithms are basically a bunch of instructions, a bunch of things that you have to do to reach a certain goal or solve a certain problem. So I have an example here, as you see. So here in this case, we're going to solve this problem of the lamp not working. And we have this algorithm designed for that, that we'll see. So the first thing that you're going to check is the lamp plugged in? If the lamp is plugged in, and if the lamp is not plugged in, we're going to plug in the lamp and see if it works. If it is plugged in, we'll go check in the bulb. We'll see if the bulb is burned out. If that's the case, we're going to replace the bulb, and if not, we're going to repair the lamp to make the lamp work. So this is basically a sort of a heuristic for if in the case that your lamp is not working, this is something that you have to, that you can follow to make your lamp work. So more formally, an algorithm is a bunch of a series of commands that must be done to achieve a certain outcome or to solve a certain problem. We can express algorithms in English, in human, more generally in human oriented forms, languages, but we can also translate them into computer languages and into basically we can automatize them and make machine do something for us. And a good example that I can think of is that an algorithm is pretty much like a good cooking recipe. I don't know if you guys have cooked before or not, but if you highlight the contrast between like how a good the recipe is laid out and how a bad recipe is laid out, well, a good recipe has a bunch of stuff. You have accurate measurements. You have exact amount of time that, for example, if you should refrigerate something or if you should cook something, you have the exact amount of time for that weight, and also you have all the ingredients that you should use specified, and you have clear instructions on what you should do at every step. Now let's contrast this to a bad recipe. So a bad recipe is a recipe that you don't have very good measurements given. Like, for example, you might have an instruction, add salt as needed, or let it simmer until it cooks or something like that, instead of saying add 5 grams of salt and let this cook on this temperature for 30 minutes, let's say. So as we tend to better our recipes and make better recipes, we're making that closer to an algorithm. I tried baking last week for the first time, and baking is really difficult. And usually you have very good recipes for them, because if you mess up the smallest thing, the whole thing that you're baking is going to like turn out completely differently than what you wanted. And that's pretty much what's true for algorithms as well. If you mess up only in one step, you're going to get your entire program not running the way you intended to. So that's pretty much what I have to say about algorithms. So the next topic would be programming, which is it's when we want those algorithms that we had, those clear instructions, when we want to basically give those to a computer and make computer understand what we want from it. So when we want to do that, we usually program in different languages. For this series and this workshop, we're going to focus on Python. Before I jump into that, I just wanted to see if you guys have any questions until this stage. Okay, and overall, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. When I'm going through the lectures, once I'm done with a part of the material, I'll just check the questions in the chat and like answer them to the best of my abilities. Also, before I start Python and like giving an introduction to that, I wanted to ask, just by showing a thumbs up maybe, how many of you have programmed in any programming language before? So if you've done that, if you have any experience in programming, just if you can just send a thumbs up. Hey. Yeah, I got about, I think, 15, so it's not that much. And it's actually good because we're Yeah, I'm getting Rust, Python, Java, Dart. Don't know what Dart is. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. You guys seem very excited, so that's good. Yeah, I think we have like around 20 people who have experience in programming, and that's cool. Okay, so we're going to jump into Python now. So Python is a pretty cool programming language. You can it's relatively easy to learn. You don't have to go through that much hassle as opposed to a language, let's say like C++, C and C++, which are sort of closer to machine languages. Python is more like a high level language. It's closer to a language we speak as opposed to C programming language or assembly or languages like that. Python has an interpreter. So what the Python interpreter does is that it reads the code line by line, and it basically translates that into machine code. So it translates into a language that your machine can understand. And so it will run the program for you. I want to contrast an interpreter with a compiler, just so you know. So languages like C and C++ are compiled. Python is a language that's interpreted. And the difference with that is that when you want to compile a language like C or C++, the entire file of the code is translated into machine language. So your entire program is translated altogether in a language that your machine understands. Interpreted languages like Python, they are translated line by line. So you don't have to translate an entire file altogether to actually execute the code. What it does is that it will go through each line of the Python language to translate that into machine code. And there is a trade-off here. So it takes less time for an interpreter to interpret a language, a code, a piece of code, because it doesn't have to do all of that all together. However, the downside here is that we can't do as many optimizations in the compiling stage as we can do with a language that is actually compiled, that all of the program files are compiled all together. And another thing here is that, well, we have to, for this interpretation process to work as expected, we as programmers should follow a specific set of syntax. And we have to basically adhere to a bunch of rules that the Python language has given to us. Going back to that recipe example, if you're following along a recipe and in part of the recipe you have, I don't know, add 2 tablespoons of table to like whatever you're cooking, you're not going to understand what it's saying, right? It's because the word table shouldn't be after the word tablespoons, if that makes sense. So the same applies to programming languages as well. You can't just use like whatever you want to type in to get the result that you want. And so we do coding normally in specific softwares, which we call like programming environments. So one type of programming environments are IDEs, or integrated development environments. These are programs that have basically a window for you to type your code in, but they have some extra abilities. So you can, for example, debug your code as well. They have provide some features for debugging. They provide some features, something like autocomplete in Google search that helps you write faster codes. So a good example of this is Visual Studio Code. Or PyCharm. I have Visual Studio Code right here, just showing it to you guys as, sorry. So this is, for example, an example of an IDE. we have here Visual Studio Code. So there are usually a bunch of parts to this to IDE. So we have the code that we're writing. We have the file manager here, which like has a bunch of files, the files in your program. We have our console here. So this is what we get as the output of our code. And we have some other stuff here that we can get into in the future. Okay, so in this in our AI research program, we're not going to use IDEs. Well, we're kind of going to, but we are not going to use Visual Studio and the examples that you see here. We're going to use Jupyter Notebook. So and mainly we're going to use Google Colab for this, which is which provides a web-based environment. It has the advantage of providing you some hardware as well, so you can use GPU and CPU and RAM of what Google provides you, and it's free. And also another extra ability is that you're able to both type in code and type in text, which we'll see. Which we're going to see in a moment. So it's pretty much like you can, if you've seen some online tutorials or examples of this, they give you, they can give, like Jupyter can give you the ability to both text and code, which is really nice for example, providing coding tutorials. Yeah, so we're done with this part. Are there any questions? Okay. So let's, I feel like it's enough talking me on the slides. So we can get some more hands-on experience with this, with Google Colab. Here, I'm just going to open this up. So to open Google Colab, you can just go to collab.google, or you can just type into like your Google search, just type in Colab, and the second tab that you click on, I think the first one will work too, should bring you to this window. And I'm hoping everyone here has a Google account because we need that for Google Colab. And so when you come here, you can just click on a new notebook, or you can just say click on Open Colab. And if you do this, you're directed to this window, collab.research.google.com. Here you're shown a bunch of examples. You can upload any file that you might have on your computer. You can use Google Drive. Or what we're going to do here, we're going to just go click on New Notebook here. And once we do this, we're going to be provided with a new notebook, which is going to look like this. So I'm going to give you some time to do these steps. And if you've done it, again, just show me a thumbs up in the chat. And once I see enough thumbs up, we'll continue with the next step. Okay, so I think everyone has this down. The cool thing about Google Colab, just going to rename my file, going to call this AI Research Cool S1 for session 1. And so one of the cool things that you see here is it's close to what an ID and what a text editor is, but we have in our file 2 blocks that we can add at each time. So for example, I can add a text here. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to start with a text. And if we double click on this text, we can type stuff in here. So I'm just going to type in AI Research School. And we can also change the formatting of this text. So you can assume like you want to, let's say, create a documentation file that both contains both has some formatting in it. So it has a title, it has some headings, it has some bolded text. You can do all of that stuff in here as well. So if I just, for example, come up here, as you see, I have options of bolding this text, making the text italic, and like making pictures, adding pictures, making bullet points, stuff like that. Just going to make this text a title. And as you see on the left side of the text, we have this hashtag symbol, which stands for, which if we use it in the text mode, it's going to give us, it's going to change the formatting of the text to a title as opposed to like a line of text in the paragraph, right? This is, by the way, this is called markup. So I don't know if you've seen HTML code. It pretty much acts as that. So you can provide different codes to say, to indicate what the formatting of your text should be. So for instance, if I add a hashtag symbol before a title, before a piece of text, it's going to show that text to me as a title. I can add a new block of text here, and I can just say something like first program in Python. And we're going to have this at that. And then after this, I'm going to add this next bit that I'm going to do, which is this code symbol here. So when I add this, as you see, there is a difference here in like the type of the window that I have. First of all, like I have this button here, which if you can guess, this is a button that's going to, if I just press it, it's going to run the piece of code that we have. So, and we're now going to write our first program in Python. If you've done any sort of coding before, you'll know that the first programs are usually just printing a string or a bunch of text in the console, which I'm going to do right now. So in Python, the way that you do that is very easy. You just type in print and you open up, you just hit parentheses, you open a parenthesis. And you can use both single quotes or double quotes here. I'll use single quotes. And this single quotes mean basically that the thing that I'm going to write inside this quote, it's going to be a string or a line of text. So I'm just going to here type in hello world. And now if I just move here and hit run cell, this button right here, it's going to take some time and it's going to print hello world for me. Now, another reason that I forgot to mention on why we're using Google Colab is because if I just wanted to do this in an IDE, I should have first installed Python on my machine, make sure everything, make sure that Python is set up according to the operating system that I have. So for example, if I'm on Windows, I have to do a bunch of extra stuff to make Python known to the Windows. So I had to go through a bunch of steps before just writing my first line of code. Another advantage to using Google Colab is that it has all of that installed on its server, and it just gives us access to basically just go through it and run it. And it makes it very much simpler to use. So I hope I'm not going too fast here. If there are any questions, just let me know. And yeah, and you can also do this on your own machine if you're and if once you've done that, you can again send a thumbs up to me, and we can continue with our next part of the tutorial. Oops, sorry. Okay, so going back to the slides, I'll just wait a bit more just to get more thumbs ups, and I'll continue with the slide. Okay, I think we're good. So the next bit that we're going to go through is the concept of variables. Variables are pretty much universal. They're used in almost all programming languages. And a variable basically boils down to an entity, something that can hold data, and it can hold data in itself so that we can use it in the future if you want to, if in case we need it. So a good example for this is that, like, if you've played video games, one of the values that's stored somewhere in the program of the game is the health bar, the amount of health that your main character has. So it's usually out of 100. If your character is hurt somehow throughout the game, this value is going to be something like 60. Right? So that value is in the backend a variable that's stored somewhere in the code of the game that you're playing. And we have a bunch of variables here. First of all, one of the things that I should mention, this hashtag symbol in Python means that that line that you're seeing is a comment, and it's actually not code. So the interpreter is just going to ignore that, and it's not going to treat it as code. So if you want to provide some explanation to what your code is doing, you can write a comment. So you can add this hashtag symbol and then put whatever description that you want after. So here, for instance, we have this variable name, and we have set that equal to Alice. So this means that if I use this variable name somewhere in my code, it's going to give me the value Alice. So going back to the piece of code that we have, I'm just going to add a new piece of code here. I'm going to type in name here equals Alice. If I just run this piece of code, I got this check mark, but I didn't get any output. And the reason for that is because I didn't ask for any output for Python to give me, right? So for example, if I want to print this piece of code, instead of just typing in name equals Alice, I should do what I did in my hello world line, right? So I should do print name here. And do notice there is a difference between this print line here and this print line here. In this print line, I'm putting quotations around the text that I'm typing. Here, I'm not putting quotations around the text that I'm typing. So what this means is that Python's going to look for this variable name somewhere in my program. And it's that once I run this program, it's going to replace this name with whatever is stored inside it. In this case, we happen to have stored the name Alice inside the name. So if I run this program, by the way, if you guys would rather use keyboard shortcuts instead of just clicking on run every time, you hit Control and Enter here, and it's going to run the code for you. So this is easier if you're like typing code fast and you just want to run it once you're done and you don't want to use the mouse, you just type in Control Enter and you're going to get your program run. And here, as you see, I have Alice. I get Alice in my printing console as a result. Okay, so yeah. Again, I'm going to ask you for thumbs ups if you've done this stage so that we can continue for the next part. Amazing. Yeah, I'm getting all, yeah, I'm getting a good amount here. I'm happy with this. Okay. One of the things that we can also do.
Hey, Arya, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. Can you zoom in a little bit?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah. Is this good
Thank you
enough
so
now?
much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I think it's better.
Okay, so let's go through our next program. Going to add in some text here. Going to type in variables and then a piece of code. Okay, so we have, we did a name Alice. I can use a different type of variable as well. So this name right here is holding a string. It's holding the text Alice. I can do something like, oh, I want to be consistent with the slides. Okay, so I can do something like Alice age, and I set that to, I can set that to a number as opposed to a name. So this 18 here, this 18 is a number, it's not a string. And one of the things that we can do here, for instance, is we can also do we can do calculations with numbers, for example. So a good example for that. This is not going to relate to Alice, but I can define two numbers, for instance. Num1 equals 5 and num2 equals 6. And we can do something like sum equals num1 plus num2. So what this is going to do, what I'm doing here is I'm defining two variables. One of them equals 5 and the other equals 6. So when I add them up and store them in a different variable called sum, it's going to add those two numbers up and it's going to store the result in sum. So if I just print this right here, if I say print sum, if I run this code, I should expect to get the number 11, right? So I'm just going to hit Control Enter, and as you see, I have the result sum printed. So I'm going to delete these two lines because they're not needed in this program. I can do more complex calculations as well. So for example, I can define another number here, num3, and I can, for instance, add these two numbers up and multiply them with num3. So if you want to multiply something, you'll use the asterisk sign. So that's shift with the keypad 8, the letter 8 on your keyboard. And we can do, let's say, -6 here. So I can just also just use numbers in my calculations. I don't have to define variables necessarily. And we can just print this number. So if I hit Control Enter again, I'm going to get 27. One of the things that I also should mention, the order of computation of operations is the same as you might have studied in your mathematics course. So parentheses is favored over everything. So first, this result is calculated, 5 plus 6, it's 11. So we're going to have, if I just write a comment here, sum equals first 5 plus 6 times 3 minus 6. So this is the first stage. The second stage, we're going to have sum equals first what's inside the parentheses is going to be calculated times 3 minus 6. Then multiplication and division is favored over addition and subtraction. So first, this result is going to be calculated, and then then the subtraction is going to be favored. So sum is going to equal 33 minus 6, and finally, sum is going to equal 27. Now, do notice that if I run this code again, it's going to give me the same result as before, because I've specified that I want these 4 lines to be comments, and I don't want them interpreted in the code. If I uncomment one of these lines, and if I run this piece of code, I'm going to get an error. And the reason for that is because Python doesn't know that this is not a piece of code. It thinks that it won't know that this is a piece of comment. It's going to think that it's a piece of code. It's going to compile it, and well, it's going to have problems with that. Okay, if there are any questions up until now, just let me know. Also, do this on your systems. And again, the thumbs up thing, if you can just send that to me, that would be great, and we can move on. Another piece of shortcut that I can teach you, if you hit Control Enter, it's going to run the code and it's going to output the result for you. You can also use Alt plus Enter, and if you do that, it's going to run the code and it's going to provide you a new line of code. So it's going to do two things at the same time. It's going to run the code, it's going to give you a new line of code that you can code something new on it. Okay, I'm happy with the number of thumbs ups that I'm getting, so I'm going to continue. We're going to go through this. There is an example here as well that you can use variables. Oh, by the way, this is also nice to mention. You can use something like this as well. So if you have num1 equals 4, if you want to store another number in num1, you can do that. So you can say num1 equals 6. So this is going to override the previous value of num1 is going to set that equal to 6. You can also do something like num1 equals num1 plus 3. So this is going to just set the value of num1 to whatever it was previously, but it's going to add 3 to that as well. So here, if I just print num1, it's going to give me the number 9, right? So this is pretty much a redundant line of code because we're overriding it right after. We're setting the num1 amount to variable to 6. We can use this variable itself as a value as well. So here, this num1 is going to be read as 6, and 3 is going to be added to that, and it's going to be stored in the variable that we had before. So once we print that, it's going to be 9. It's going to be 6 plus 6. Okay, so I'm having a very good question here. Is there a difference between assigning the computation to a variable first versus doing something like print num1 plus num2? Now, in the answer that you're getting in the end, it's not going to cause a difference. But when you're defining a variable, what's going to happen is that that variable is going to be stored on memory. So if you look at the machine code on this, there's actually going to be a difference. So if you have print num1 plus num2, what's going to happen is that variables num1 and num2 are going to be loaded up from the memory. The computation is going to be done on registers in the CPU. So registers are basically small pieces of memory inside the CPU that can hold the data in them. And if you do this, it's not going to store the value back to the memory. It's just going to print the value using the print code that Python has. So that's the difference. If you do print num3, so you do a calculation, something like we did here. If you're printing, let me just type this in here as well. So if we're doing something like these two will print the same values, but this right here, if I check my memory at this line of my code, nothing's going to be stored inside my memory that has this value num1 plus num2 times num3 minus 6 stored inside. But some is going to be stored on memory. So there is an address in memory that contains what's stored inside some. So I hope that answers the question. But if I just print these two lines of code, it's going to give two 27s back to me because the computation and the number that we're calculating is the same in both cases. Yeah, so this gives you power in coding because you know that when you're declaring a variable, it's going to store it on memory. So if you want to do some optimizations, you might not want to do that, right? It makes sense that if you're just using sum to print this value one time, to use it like this. But if you're going to use sum a bunch of other times in your code, it makes sense to store that in a variable so that you don't have to do the computation every time. Okay. So going back to the slide, so we're just going to formalize what we've learned a bit. All the lines that I wrote in Python are called a statement. So a statement is the smallest unit of code that the interpreter can execute. And as we've mentioned here, and with respect to the things that I've mentioned before, you have to be clear in what you want from Python programming language. You have to stick to the syntax that it requires you to have. You can't type all the stuff that you want. Well, you can, but you'll get an error in the end, right? And we already learned about outputs. I'm going to teach in inputs as well. So we're going to type a program that actually gets an input from the user. And it's going to provide us with an output. So for example, we can actually do a program that, let's do it now, that takes two numbers as inputs and it's going to give us the sum of two numbers as an output. Inputs, user inputs. Okay. And I'm going to add a piece of code here. So if you want to output something to the console, we'll learn this, we use print. If you want to take an input from the user, you just type in input, right? So what this is going to do is going to just get an input from the user. However, because we want to use this input later, we should store this in a variable. So I'm going to just type in num1 equals input. So what this is going to do is that it's going to get an input from us. Oh, Oh, there's something that I should mention. Python programming language is very sensitive to spaces, and we'll see this in the future because spaces have meaning in Python language. So I can just do like a couple of spaces and expect my program to work. So if you have, make sure if you have any white spaces before your variable names, just remove them so that you won't get any errors. And I'm going to take another input as well. And then I'm going to print the sum of the two numbers is, and then I'm going to print num1 plus num2. We can make this more complicated if you have time and if you guys are interested, because you can print the entire thing in one line as well, but I'm just going to stick to this for now because we can just print types of different types in one print statement unless we use a certain syntax for it. So if we run this piece of code, I'm going to get a text box here, which indicates that I should provide an input here. So I'll just type in 9. And this is for the second input. So I'll just type in like something like 5. And oops, this is not what we expected. So it's interesting. So the way that Python works is you can just when you write the two numbers like this, it's going to convert the two of the numbers to strings, and it's going to print that out to you. So it's going to put in a 9 next to a 5. So what we're going to do here, I'll get again, there are multiple ways to fix this. I'm just going to type I'm just going to do the simplest case for now. So I'm going to just type in sum equals number 1 and number 2. I'm going to print in the sum here. And if we do this now.
Arya, this is the input function that it stores everything as
Oh,
strings. So we have to
yes.
change the
Yes.
type.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that. Yeah, I thought we can evade this with using it with different strings. Yeah, so this is the problem. So yeah, so what we should do here, and one of the ways that we can fix this is the input function by default takes the input as a string. So we have to somehow convert that to an integer. The difference between an integer of type int or a piece of string that happens to have an integer is this. So this is a string. This is an integer. So we have, as I mentioned before, if you have quotations, either single or double quotations around any piece of text, you're going to get strings. If you don't have it, you're going to get an integer. So yeah, if you're using input by default in Python, you're going to get this stored in your variable, and that's what happened. And that's sorry, that was my mistake. I should have remembered this. So one way that we can fix this is that we can convert the type string to integer. The way we do that, we just put an int before the type num1 and the type that we have. And if we hit Control Enter now and do the addition, it's going to be it's going to work as expected. One of the other things that we can do as well is we can give an argument to the input function. As you see, we have this thing in the print function as well. If we give an argument to the input function, it's going to print something for us before we type in the print string that we want. So for example, here, I can just say input first number. And for the next one, I can say input second number. And if we hit Control Enter here, as you see, we're going to get a line of text here as well. And the rest of the program is going to be done as we expect. I can also here do something like this. So this is also going to work. Okay. Yeah. So again, do this on your own systems. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Also, again, if you're done with it, just let me know with a thumbs up so we can move on to the next topic. Okay. Okay, yeah, sure. So I have a question. Could you explain why you must add the int function again? The reason for this is because the input function, the way that it's implemented in Python, oh, sure, yeah. The input function that's implemented in Python by default is it's going to return a string. So instead of an integer. So what's going to happen in this line of code, num1 is actually going to be equal to, let's say if we give input as 5 to the input, it's going to make it look like this. And the input works like so. It's not going to work like this. Right? So what's going to happen is that the num1 is going to be set to a string as opposed to an integer. So one way, the way that we usually deal with this is that you're going to turn the number into a string. Sorry, we're going to turn the variable num1 into an integer. The way that we did it before, if we have it like this, this is going to give us print 9 plus 5. And then you concatenate two strings, meaning when you add two strings together, it's going to print 9, 5 for us. So this is equivalent to this. Right? So, and this is true for any sort of string. So if you have, let's say, some term here and another term here, the result is going to be the concatenation or the addition of the two strings together. So that's what we're having here right now as well. Another way that you can do this, by the way, so here what's going to happen is that this num1 is going to hold a string inside. As you see, we have quotations around it. So the type of this is you're seeing an str above as well, right? So that means that whatever is going to be inside this value is going to be a string. Another way that we can do this, sorry if this is getting a little bit complicated, but you can immediately convert the result of the input to an integer. So again, you use the function int here. And if I hover over, this is, I think I have to run this again to make it work. But if we convert the results immediately to an integer, then we don't have to convert them here. So I can just type in num1 plus num2. And if I run this piece of code, so the main, as you see, I'm getting the number 7 here, right? So the main point here is that, as you see, the type of number has changed to an integer. So it used to be str, now it's int, right? Because I'm converting the result immediately to an integer. The short answer, just to sort of conclude to the question, is that what's the output of the input function is going to be string. So whatever you give as input is going to interpret that as a string, regardless of the fact that it's either a number or a string. Okay, so if you're good with this part, we're going to continue. And if I need to clear up anything in my answer, just let me know in the chat. So we've covered inputs and outputs as well. I'm going to go to the next slide. I explained what comments do. So we have this part sort of done as well, just to do a review on this. If you put this hashtag symbol before any line of code that you're typing, that line is not going to be counted as a piece of program. It's just going to be ignored. There are two more types of variables that I'm going to go through. So we learned strings and integer. We have a type float. So integer by default, it's integer. The way that it works is that it's going to store whole numbers. So you can store numbers like -5, 2, 3, 4, 26, numbers like that. But you can't store 2.5 in an integer. You need a different type of variable for that. The type of variable that we use for that are called floats. So floats are used to hold decimal values in them. If we go back through one of the programs that we have here, for example, this program right here, I'm just going to actually create a new program like this. And I'm going to set, let's call this float 1 to 1.6 and float 2 to 6.5. And we can show the result of this, the sum of the two floats here as well. So it's going to be pretty much similar to integers. The way that Python infers if this is that this is a floating point value is by this decimal point right here. So if I put in 1.0 here, despite the fact that 1.0 can also be stored in an integer, here, because I put in 1.0, this type is going to be interpreted as a float, and it's not going to be interpreted as an integer. And we also have Boolean values. So Boolean values are a binary value between 0 and 1. For that, I'll just type in, let's say, Boolean 1. And I can set a Boolean value to either true or false. This will come in handy in the future when we want to control the flow of the program. So we're going to encounter something like if statements. And so we want a piece of code to be executed under certain conditions and not executed under other conditions. So the way that we can do that is by using Boolean values, true or false. You can print them in the similar way that you can print floating points, integers, and so on. But they're mostly used for writing if and for loops. And if you don't know what those are, it's fine. It's something that you're going to learn in the following sessions. And I think this is the last part that I'm going to cover. We sort of did cover this for the input types. I'm going to elaborate on this part a bit more. So let's do another program here. We're going to do something like, let me just also type something in here so that the program stops running. Okay. So we can convert types of types under types of variables of a certain type in some conditions to variables of a different type. So here we have two variables, 6 and 1, but I'm putting quotations around the variables. So this means that these two variables are strings. So for example, if I print something like this now. And if I just run this piece of code, I'm going to get an error. The reason for that is because these two variables are strings and they're not integers, right? So a string subtracted by another string doesn't mean anything, doesn't make any sense. What we probably intended to do was that we wanted to convert this string to the type integer, and then we want to do the calculations after that. So, and the way that we do it is the way that we did it before. So, we just convert the type to integers like this. So we put int var2 minus int var1, and once we do this conversion, as you see, var2 will be converted to 1 and var1 will be converted to 6. So they will be converted to integers, and 1 minus 6 is minus 5, as we have here. We can also do something like, we can also convert these two. Let me actually use a different program for this. So let's say we have a similar program, but instead of variables being integers, strings of integers, there are strings that show floating point numbers. So let's say we have something like 6.5 and 1.9. If we want to do the same thing, we cannot convert these variables to integers now, right? Because they're floating, there are strings, but the data in the strings resembles floating points. So we can convert these, we should convert these values to floating points if we're doing calculations. So the way we do that, we just type in float and open up the parentheses, and we can, let's say, do a multiplication of the two variables. And if we run this program, we'll see we're going to get the result. If I don't put the floating points, I'm going to get an error because multiplication is not defined for two strings. Okay, so for today, this was all the stuff that we had to learn and had to cover. You guys now have time to experiment with this stuff and do the codings on your own systems. And if you have any questions, just let me know. If there was any part during the class that I was going like a little bit too fast, or I was I don't know, I was confusing you in some way, just let me know, and I'll try to clear things up as much as I can.
Thank you so much, Arya. No, I think this was great. You had some question in the chat. I'm not sure if you addressed them. Could you explain why you must add the int function again?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
We did that. But yeah, if there is Swapna, if you need any clarifications on that, just let me know.
Okay. And if you have a question unanswered, you can still ask question on the Discord, as I said, and Arya would be available there as well.
Sure, yeah.
Could you also re-explain the float?
Okay, yeah, sure. So let's go back to the slides. So today we learned 4 types overall. The 2 number types that we learned are integers and floats. Integers, the way that they work, you can only store whole numbers in them. So numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or minus 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 6. So they can be negative whole number or positive whole number. Floating point numbers, they're numbers that contain some decimal value in them. So 1.5, 3.2. Sure, yeah, I will do that as well. 1.5, 3.2, and something I should explain, which is a little bit more complicated, is that I showed you guys we can have something like 1.0. Now, the reason that this is different than having something like int equals 1 is because floating point numbers are stored in a different way than integers. because that has to do with the way that we store values on hardware. So by default, you're not allowed to, there are some restrictions around doing an int versus float calculation. So it's better to do all your calculations either in floats if you need floats or in ints. So that's why the difference between there is a difference between 1.0 and 1, because one, they're not stored the same way in your computers, and two, you're not you want to have values of the same type to do certain computations. So I hope that clarified the question. Boolean variables, if you know what ints are, Booleans are much more simpler than integers. So an int can contain a vast range of numbers, something like -2 to the power of, I don't know, 10, 11, some depending on the programming language, to +2 to the power of 20, I think, something like that. It's a very huge number that it can provide. Booleans only have a binary system, so they're either true or false, on or off, 0 or 1. So there are just two types of data that we can handle in Booleans. One of the things that we're going to learn in the future of the course, and I'm going to do a little bit of cheating and get ahead, is that you can, if you want to do a comparison check, for example, if you want to see if 5 is larger than 6, or stuff like that, the expression that you're going to get as a result is going to be a Boolean. So it's like, is 5 bigger than 6? It's not, so you're going to get a false. Now, is 6 bigger than 5 or 4? Well, in that case, 6 is bigger than 4, so you're going to get true. The value true. Now, this is useful for when we are writing if and for statements. So if and for loops. If the way that if statements work, I'm trying to keep track of time here as well, is that your program is going to execute a bunch of lines that you specify, depending of if a condition that you set for it is true or not. So if the condition is true, it's going to run those pieces of lines, and if it's not true, it's just going to omit those lines. It's going to skip those lines and run the next piece of the program. Yes, but they are going to be covered in a future discussion. So if you you can sort of, if this is unclear to you, it's going to be cleared up way more in if and for loops. Then we cover them. And the next question that I have is that, is there a difference between using double quotes and singular quotes? Not for now, but I should have also been more consistent with that. So just use one of them and stick to them. One of the things that you can do is, if you are using single quotes, you can use double quotes inside the string and vice versa. So I guess it depends on the sort of case that you're using, but for now, I don't think you should worry about that. So you can use them interchangeably for now, but I suggest just stick to one of them, either single quotes or double quotes. Any other questions?
I don't see any more questions in the chat. Thank you so much, Arya. That was very insightful, and apparently students loved it because you have a lot of thank yous on the chat. So thank you very much for your time and your presentation. For all the participants, we're sorry because this was a bit long because we had both the opening ceremony and the workshops. In the future, we only will have the workshops, so it should be around 1.5 hours. But thank you for staying up that late on a Sunday. And yeah, do you want to add something, Dr. Maliki?
No, thank you, Arya, and thank you everyone for joining, and see you on Wednesday.
Yeah, and once again, we're going to share the slides and the collab with you on a drive that we're going to make available. Be mindful of any communication from Eventbrite and also on the Discord. And yes, have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bianca, regarding your question, are the workshops every week? So we're gonna have workshops next week and the week after, but after, as we said in the beginning, they're gonna be a break for your exams, and we're gonna resume in January. But we're gonna share a Google Calendar with you in the coming week. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.